Hello and welcome to Brotherly Love Gaming. I'm Alex.
And I'm Spence.
And in this show, we're going to be talking about the nostalgia for games that, we shared together, being brothers and having come up into gaming more or less together.
In a little bit of different perspectives. So there's a 6-year age difference between me and Alex. And so at the time, certain games were more developed for you, I would venture to say, so like I was too young to understand the concepts of them, so I would just watch him, and that's kind of what this is all about, like the feelings that I kind of felt,
right?
Watching him play and what he remembers, because we also have an older brother as well, so
I think it's interesting to think about games in the context of things that we shared experiences together, and also how those experiences are a little bit different because we came at them from a slightly different direction.
Cool.
So to get started today, we're going to be talking about Kingdom Hearts.
Just the first
PlayStation 2. So. And what that meant to us.
Awesome.
And here I have my collection of the series, which is every game.
Hold up this one.
Yeah, including the PS4 remasters. I don't have the PS3 ones because I didn't have a PS3 until recently.
And
we got the original strategy guide that I used.
That's all janked up thanks to me, probably.
Yeah. So my memory of the game is it was one of the first PlayStation games I asked for on purpose. Like we got the PlayStation maybe a year after it came out.
Right.
And we didn't have like a PS1 or anything like that. We had the N64 was our previous game console. So I knew about like the Final Fantasy series from like friends of mine that had PlayStation 1s. And then this game at the time was being advertised as Disney meets Final Fantasy.
Still how I describe it to all my friends.
Which is still probably the best way to describe it. But I thought that like I was, I guess, 10 years old. I was like, Final Fantasy might be too big for me right now, Like all my friends' older brothers play Final Fantasy. I should start off with this Kingdom Hearts game that looks like it's more Final Fantasy for beginners. So that's why I asked for it, and I got it, and played up to Alice in Wonderland before I got just hopelessly lost. And then that's why we got the strategy guide.
Strategy guide, yeah.
It was because I just couldn't figure out that level. Was at the bookstore and was like, I'm going to get this. I restarted the entire game with the strategy guide in hand, and then was able to actually get through it.
Yeah, I remember watching you play through it, and
so I
was only 5 years old watching you play Alice in Wonderland, like confused out of my mind.
Yeah,
because I was like, well, you have to do this, right? And you're like, no, you got to like change the room around, and
that's also an instance where I feel like strategy guides can make things more confusing, because when you play through Alice in Wonderland level with the strategy guide in hand, it's designed to help you get all the collectibles. So you're not just going through like the rooms that make sense in order to get to the boss and beat the level. You're doing things in a way that lets you collect everything.
Right.
So the strategy guide I thought was still confusing, because like I didn't quite understand even like what I was supposed to be doing besides just following the steps. Been replaying the PS4 version recently, and I was able to figure it out on my own just by knowing, okay, I got to go into different rooms until I can eventually flip the room around in a way that lets me fight the boss.
Right.
And when you're focused on that and you understand that, it's a little bit easier, I think. But again, 10 years old, I didn't get that.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the whole thing. Like when we were younger, playing games like this and Legend of Zelda and stuff like that have some puzzles in it, it's very much so like, all right, we're just going to keep going into different rooms until we find something out.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I think that's what kind of helped us go through with the entire game. I mean, I remember watching you play this and getting annoyed that you were stopping for every collectible because you were using this. I was like, can we just go to the boss? And you're like, no, I got to do this. This is what the guy tells me. I'm like, all right, that's fine.
Well, yeah, and then it's like if you don't follow the guide to the letter, basically, you can end up more confused because the guide is assuming that you're following it, So.
Yeah, so like if you go on later in the game and it's like, oh, by now you should have this item, and it's like, wait, no, I don't, because I skipped that. Yeah. So that makes sense. But
Brenna, my wife, is playing through it now for her first time, has never played it before. So it's really interesting for me to see how she tries to figure out stuff with no direction whatsoever. You know, she's not using the guide. I pulled it out for her, but she hasn't used it yet. You know, and she's in the Alice in Wonderland world, and she's just going in circles basically because she can't figure out how do you get to the next part. You know,
right.
The next part.
When I was watching you play through this, my least favorite part about you using this guide was that it tried to get you to get all of the like most powered up weapons. So save the queen, save the king for Donald and Goofy, and then the ultimate weapon.
Right.
And just watching you do the Hades Cup trial, the time trial, and then just with you as Sora, why are you playing this over and over again? And you're just like, I have to get this weapon. Like the guy tells me I have to do it. Like I want this like powered up thing. Like, it'll make the game easier.
Yes, well, because then by the time you have it, you stomp on everything basically.
Exactly.
Donald and Goofy both have weapons that you can only get from specific enemies. And I get it.
It's right after this.
And so, like, you kind of have... There we go. There's the weapons.
Go to the next.
So, yeah, it's Goofy's Defender weapon and Donald's Wizard Relic.
Yeah, they can only drop from Hollow Bastion.
They're only dropped by specific enemies in Hollow Bastion. And the drop rate is, like, 1%.
Yeah, it's next to none, I remember.
So you have to get abilities that increase the drop rate of rare items, and then just basically
just grind it
until you get it. And I eventually got it,
right?
Just because I was like adamant about getting everybody's weapons,
just to say like, hey, I have them,
just to have them. Basically, this was probably the first game I ever like 100%ed. Though I was gonna say, do you remember when we got the game, we still had our game set up in our living room, and you don't remember this?
I don't remember this.
So for the first couple months we had the PlayStation, we had it set up in the living room on the big TV that they had there up until 5 years ago. They still had the same big TV. And eventually we had to move down to the basement because we wanted to play video games all the time.
And Dad was like, not happening, I want to watch TV.
You gotta watch football.
Yeah.
The race is on. But while it was still in there, what I did not realize at the time was, you remember that there's that window in there that casts like a big glare on the TV? And 10-year-old Alex did not like think about how that was affecting my ability to play the game. On Destiny Islands, when that level ends,
I do remember
it's nighttime.
It's nighttime and you can't
dark.
see a thing. I remember that because you're like, I can't do anything. I
could not see anything. And I thought it was just the game. I thought that was just, this is the way the game is. And then when we moved everything downstairs, I guess this was when I replayed the game on Proud Mode, I played that level again, and it was just like, wait a minute, you can actually see stuff. As long as you don't have this glare coming
on,
from the window outside. So do you remember in the beginning of the game, when you have to pick which weapon do you want and which weapon do you want to sacrifice?
Yeah, in the very, very beginning, where there's like the glass and you're in like the darkness right before you fight Darkseid.
Yes.
Yeah. What about it?
What do you choose? Do you remember?
I don't. Because there's 3, right?
There's 3. You can do a sword.
You can do a sword, a shield, or staff.
Staff, yeah.
I think I picked the sword every time. Because at the time that I played it, I was probably like 10, and I was like, yeah, attack power over everything. You know, I didn't really care. Like, I didn't know about like defense and magic. I don't think I really cared. I think I picked the sword every time.
And do you know what you like give up to? Because again, you have to whichever one you don't choose, you have to go one.
I think I got rid of the staff because I was like, well, it's funny because at the beginning of it, I was like, well, yeah, a sword and a shield. Like, why wouldn't I do that? So I was like, well, let me get rid of the staff.
The guide tells you what to do, and it sets up like your beginning stats in the game. Right. I think I always chose keep the sword and sacrifice the shield, just because it gives you the highest attack power.
Interesting.
And
I didn't know that.
The most ability points.
But it also gives you the least amount of defense.
Yes. But I'm always like, I'm attacking, I'm not getting hit.
Yeah, I think I might have actually done that at some point.
I think it's interesting because if you choose the staff, which Brenna did when she was playing through her, she chose the staff, and I don't remember which one she sacrificed. You start off with 3 MP instead of 2. Which is interesting, but also I feel like
at the beginning of the game, it's
important.
Yeah, it's not
you don't get magic for a while.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's kind of useless in a sense because you don't really get any important spells until...
I don't remember when you get Cure, but to me it's like that's the most important spell.
Yeah, like I don't...
So until you get that, to me it's like your MP kind of doesn't matter.
Right.
Which is why I always just go for pure offense. And then you also get questions asked by Tidus, Waka, and Selphie.
Yeah, that's right.
And they determine, I think, how quickly you level up, and also maybe like what order you learn abilities.
Determine what leveling pace your decisions will impose. Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yep.
That's awesome. That kind of sucks though for like someone that doesn't have this and it's just like, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna pick whatever, and they get like a slow pace and they're stuck leveling up like super slow.
Yeah, and the weapon you pick at the beginning also determines which abilities you want to earn in which order, which is interesting. Like if you choose the shield, you learn guard immediately, versus you don't learn that until level 36 with the swords. So I think it's sort of interesting. It sort of changes your playstyle, you know?
I remember like this being one of the most important. So
second chance, right?
Yeah, second chance was like one of the most. You can't get one-shotted in that, and like that was super important for the Riku fight in Hollow Bastion, because that was arguably one of the hardest fights next to like Sephiroth, because it took us how many endless tries.
But then that fight is just like an impossibly huge difficulty spike.
Definitely,
just for the sake of, I guess, giving you. I mean, like story-wise and emotionally, it works. It makes a lot of sense that, like, you know, your best friend /
is
rival,
like the hardest fight in the game,
the hardest challenge you've come up to
in the main story, right?
You know,
what I would like to see is like using companions and summoning in a little bit different way. So like,
I very rarely use summons.
Exactly, summon was fun in the first 2 games. So like in 2, I remember like summoning Stitch like all the time, like just because I could. But what I would like to see like with 3 would be like maybe being able to like carry along your companions or something to other worlds, which is kind of what Summon did. But you know, like I couldn't tell you how many times I would love to have like Jack Skellington on my side, like fighting in Hollow Bastion or something. Like, so
hacking in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be interesting if they
like kind of bring characters across different. I don't think it would ever happen, but because like no one wants to see Olaf and, you know, from the Frozen world in, who knows, like Traverse Town or something.
Right. I mean, I do. Yeah, that'd be cool. Even as like a completion bonus.
Right, like that you could, like, after you beat the game to complete, like, you can bring your companions, and then, like, there's some extra, like, dialogue between characters and stuff. It's like, hey.
Yeah, like, you've done this thing, now your reward is, you can roam around with whoever you want, you know?
Right.
I don't see them doing that, but...
I don't see them doing that, but I think it's a cool idea.
So I think that's going to do it for this episode today on Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, you know, we kind of covered a lot. Hopefully we kind of touched those emotions that you felt back then when you played it, you know, like, I know I have some very specific feelings I get when I think about Kingdom Hearts, and, like, the very first one. So hopefully we're able to kind of spark that interest, and hopefully you go play it if you haven't. Yeah, if you haven't checked, definitely check it out if you havenent. If you have some memories, share them in the comments. We want to, hear from everybody. It's fun talking about these memories, want to hear yours. We'll be doing more of these on different series. Probably sounds like The Legend of Zelda. Legend of Zelda's probably coming up next.
Probably be the next one.
That's like the next biggest one that we kind of have.
Right. If there's anything you guys want to see us talk about, we've probably played it. One of the two of us.
Probably.
So, comment down below about that. Like the channel, subscribe so you can see more, and we'll see you guys next time.